Bravehearts, Urbanites, Coach Mad Hatters, Vineyard Creatrix, Crimson Velvet VIPs. I had a few things I wanted to talk about, and I'm gonna start it with this. I'd be amazed at how many motherfuckers I still identify come cloaked and daggered. Always with the shenanigans. Always with the shenanigans. I think there will come a time when we are going to realize that it's easy for us to be wretched upon one another because that's the way we were generationally raised. That's the vibe our generations were raised. That's the energy we were brought up in. And it doesn't matter what generation, from colonial pen, from the inception of the colonial pen over here in these United States of America. Hmm. Divide and conquer is still alive and well. Character assassinations are still alive and well. Rumor mills are still alive and well. Motherfuckers be in the shadows. They are evolutionized, revolutionizing the spook that's set beside the door. And I'm not talking about in a good way. I'm not talking about to free the people. And no matter what, little teeny stuff that add up. It's the little stuff. It's the little cloak and daggerings that chip away at folk, fuck with their esteem, mess around with their pride and their self worth. We are mean spirited to each other because that is the vibratory frequency by which every generation came up in. And it's still happening. Now it's a little bit more clever, a little bit more nuanced because in these cyberspaces, they don't have to go and interrogate nobody. All they got to do is click up the IP address to your gadget and they can see and hear everything that you do. And yeah, all of that, even cross reference to whoever's sitting in the room in earshot to these gadgets. So we have to know that the metaphorical value of Penelope Pitstop is part of your experience. And that if you have, okay, this is the moon. For the sake of clarity, the moon card indicates intuition and powerful subconsciousness. There are several contradictory symbols in this card. I can't hold the card, the book, and the glasses. And I don't even know why I'm holding it up because you can't really see it. The print is so small. But this is the moon card. The moon card reminds us of both tamed and wild aspects of our minds and that are both useful. The moon can signify a time of uncertainty where things aren't always what they initially seem. During this time, it is important to trust one's intuition. Many of us are losing sight that our emotions are tied into our intuition and that we still have a grid of unsettled. Uncertainty is going to be with us regardless. It's the it's the unsettled foundations that has been based upon generation of hypersensitive emotion. We aren't even dealing with a people that come through on an even keel. Like we come through this realm in heartache. Now maybe 1 or 2% of melanated folks lived and were raised inside of what's considered a healthy or wholesome environment, but not the majority. Not the majority. And so, even if your particular life was not full of turmoil, 6 degrees, baby, I honestly believe it's 6 degrees in 6 degrees of treasure and turmoil. 6 degrees. 6 degrees either way, 6 degrees separated or close, you will tap into someone that is in your bloodline or in your tribe line that lived a completely treacherous, full of turmoil childhood. And what they say, from 0 to 7 years, is it pretty much sets the tone for one's internal sensibilities, not what they show you on the outside. Someone can be full of turmoil Someone can be full of turmoil and still be cooperative, still be a team player, still be 10 of cups, can still be what America deems successful, can still be just as rambunctious as, you know, um, checking all the boxes, doing everything right, um, linear succession, yeah, getting all the money, shot calling and great balling and all of that kind of stuff, and can be so hollow and voided inside and be so ashamed because the more and more they live this successful life, the more and more they get away from themselves because of the things that you have to do. It's the way the game is set up. The way this society is set up, if you don't already enter the game whole, and most of us don't, the more material shit you accumulate. And I don't mean the fault is in the accumulation. But just be honest with let's be honest with oneself to say what is it that had to be sacrificed in order to accumulate this, that, and the third. Especially when we think about the ultimate. All this stuff you accumulate, yes, it gets passed down. But does it really get passed down? And even if it does get passed down, the people that you're passing it down to or passing it over to, do they value it and acknowledge what you had to do to get it? Or do they blow right through it because they don't have that anchoring aspect that ties them to how this was accumulated? Like when you transcend this realm, who inherits your business? Who inherits that brand that you're building? And do they, because remember, and I'm speaking in terms of a cultural denomination that is not steeped in ownership of anything because for so long they were the commodity that was owned. And I'm not necessarily talking terms of chattel slavery. They still were owned. And I'm going to continue to say that we have taken great pride in going to their universities, learning their stuff to battle it out to get their jobs, and then we really do be having this sorrow element that says, "What am I doing? And why am I doing it? And what am I doing it for? And was it worth it? Because you, we, working for them advances them. And who's them, Thea? Anybody who's not you. And you know who you are. And because you are multidimensional, each and every time your bloodline furthers, you duplicate, you multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. And it doesn't have to be biological. We actually can pour into individuals that we did not birth ourselves. That's why I always get confused with the whole single mom, single dad concept. And we've bought into that too, which dictates the way we see the world, which dictates the way we behave in the world, which dictates what it is that we will go after or what we will not go after, to be or not to be. Because, in my opinion, there are so many people that ought not be raising children. I was one of them. And I knew that my angry streak was going to tear up because I knew what mine was like. And so, seeing as that apples don't fall too far from the tree, and you can't really remove the tree, you have to remove the apples. I knew my children were going to be completely shattered if I had to raise them. And that's my truth. And it took me a long time to get to that truth. Ain't nobody, what Jill Scott say? You're not going to shame me for me. You're not going to shame me for being me. I came here to morph and unfold just exactly the way that I did. And we can do the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. We can. We can be a whole lifetime doing that double dutching in and out. We could do that all fucking day long. But the fact of the matter is, we are still judging ourselves and each other according to this American dream and this whole lopsided ass, economical, conventional, cookie cutter. Have you ever seen the introduction to the TV series Weeds? I kind of hold on real quick. Let me put Miles Davis on pause real quick because I had to go and sit with him this morning. We honestly be figuring that our tones of melancholy ought not be honored as somehow our terms or aspects of bliss and joy are the things that we always supposed to be reaching for, not even realizing the treasure troves that are inside of our melancholy. Because, see, here's the thing, society never wants you sad. And I'm going to take that back to chattel slavery as well. You, we, our generational personas have succinctly or successively, meaning one dot, spill into this dot, spill into this dot, spill into this dot. And generationally, our emotionality has been stuffed in while our practicality and our mentality has been put to the forefront as a piece of somebody's property. Remember, folks that look like me were written in people's wills and inherited. The mistress would pass on her slaves just like we do now with houses and cars and shit. Like we do with our chattel, and what we do with the farm animals and shit. The slaves were written inside of the will and were passed on. The mentality of this type of existence has never gone away. That's one of the reasons why you can be of two different cultural denominations, go to the same university, and have a totally different, light year different experience. Because one is going to that university with all sorts of pride because of the bloodline linked to the founding fathers of that university. And so it is an honor and a privilege. The other one fought so hard through applications and testing and assessments and scholarships and piecing money from here, there, and everywhere just to go and experience an even harsher time, even more hurdles to then get a degree, have this astronomical bill, and still have to fight to get through the door to land a job that they find out paying them light years different than the counterpart that walked through the door around the same time with the same damn degree. And I'm not sure what's taking us so long to get a fucking clue. And then you have somebody like me who speaks like this, and I'm the problem. Get the fuck out of here. And I'm going to continue to say we still be acting like we don't know the fucking game is rigged from all aspects of the black life. If it matters so much, how is it that we continue to fight to be included? And if we don't fight to be included, the things we replicate still is all infused in this American dream bullshit. And yeah, I do still take in colonial content. I still read their books. I don't tap into their news or their newspapers and shit like that. I really wish Ida B. Wells, the spirit of Ida B. Wells would reincarnate. Would reincarnate when she spoke to the people and you didn't have to be an academic elite to, or have reoccurring monthly means to pay for it. Or if it, because everything does require money, and we still live in a society that we are intricately entwined in. Like I say, I think we still trying to separate the salt from the sugar, and yes, that's going to be kind of hard to do. um, but there are some miraculous recipes that call for both, that morph into a highly unique source of nutrient and substance. But with all that said, I think we do need to make way for the fact that we are still a people who dream about being free, but don't honestly know what that means, because it takes it takes generations of free energy, the spiritedness of freedom. And that requires a balance of emotionality and mentality. You got to remember, all of your counterparts did not have their legends of their roots ripped away from them. They were not caught up in a societal narrative that labeled them as product, looked at them as product. Honestly, weaved their whole existence and economic stimulus around you being a product. Without you being that product, the whole fucking shit crumbles away. In order for the American dream to stand tall, you have to remain the product. And so, slowly but surely, the more and more you get a fucking clue and you understand that it is way, way, way bigger than race. You not being the product, you not being the worker, you not being the indentured servant, you not being the public constituent requires folks to reevaluate their entire existence. And so, yes, your happiness and your blissful stability is all twined up in that. And it doesn't matter how much money you make, because it's just you. The Ace of Swords. It's just you. You and probably one or two other people are the only ones in the family that got a decent amount of money. And then you run from the ones who don't. So that's divide and conquer right there. because you don't want nobody to ask you for nothing. You don't want to have to, unless you want to have to. You'll give Tommy Hilfiger $250 for a shirt and will gripe because your cousin needs you to uh, sponsor her to go to the bookstore, which could mean the world to her, while you continue to allow Tommy Hilfiger to be one of the most oppressive conglomerates in the world. It takes your money to remain powerful. Oh, that's weird that I'm almost intimidated to see what these. Okay, so on the top is the Queen of Wands. So, in the Page of Swords. Okay, so listen. So let's just say that the moon is revealing certain intuitive guideposts, and those that are being subjected, continuing to be subjected to these cloak and daggered scenarios, there is a Ten of Cups. There is a Ten of Cups. But I think inside of those cups, because remember, cups is emotion. And so oftentimes when we see the Ten of Cups, those in the tarot world, when we see the Ten of Cups, we always be thinking that it's 10 cups of bliss. When emotions is a spectrum. And some emotions do hurt. Very, very, very badly. And what we would consider the satisfying emotions in conjunction with the dissatisfying emotions, not realizing that it is two sides of the same coin. You, we, humans, earthlings, the conduits of energy, cannot have one without the other. And as long as we run from one, trying to go and capture the other, we're always going to be living these lopsided ass experiences. This existence that seemed to always be tilted, like the, what is it, the Leaning Tower of Pisa? Yeah, always looking like this. Even though with me being left-handed, sometimes I do, and it's amazing when many people will say, TC, your head when you get to concentrate or you need to see something like your head till like. Anyway, my point was, so I think the moon is asking us, inviting us to understand that inside these cups is a harmonization of both emotions that we will be satisfied with, and emotions that we will be dissatisfied with, and the combinations, and all the recipes in between. I think that's what the moon is telling us in this scenario. But what I also believe is this queen of wands, this passionate individual, is going to have the ace of swords and the page of swords. She got two fucking swords because there is so much that needs to be explained. And last week, I had this burst of energy where I want to say it was about 6 video segments, and it just came from out of nowhere. I didn't post them because it feels like it's for something else, but I was amazed at how it was just pouring out of me. And I'm just hitting record, hitting record, hitting record. That has never happened. Usually, I have to go into deliberations to hit record, and I definitely got to go into deliberations to post it. It's just something with me, with outside of my comfort zone, is how these things get posted, because I would just prefer to talk in real time and keep it moving. So, with that being said, I have always had this banner that I will wave to say, if we do not shift the whole pay more attention to the message and stop being so quick to scrutinize the messenger. Like I say, that right there makes me feel that feels like auction block mentality. What was I calling it at first? I think I was calling it auction block. I don't syndrome. I think it was the auction block syndrome. I think I was calling it. Um, which ties into why we always have to be in presentation mode. We always have to be in window dress mode because we were always being analyzed, scrutinized, looked at like we were on the clothing line or on the assembly line. Folks were choosing us just like they choose us as workers. But now it's a little bit more formal because you got to put it in an application. Like now you have to seek out your indentured servitudes. But at first, you didn't have a choice, and so you were on these auction blocks. But you still had to bring forth your value, not complain. Products don't complain. Products don't complain. And so it strikes me odd to continue to witness the narrative that's so surprised about racism or anything else that takes my kinfolk out of being the societal product. You came into the narrative as the societal product. So, do we really believe that the bloodline of the founding fathers is going to look at it any differently? It reminds me of, and it doesn't matter if it's guy or girl. Say you break up, you end the romance, and somewhere in the back of their mind it's like, I don't care what happened, he's still mine, she's still mine. I don't care who she be with, she's still mine. I don't care what he do or he's still mine. That mentality of ownership, that's the nuance that we keep missing when we continue to try to mature in the mind frame outside of being America's product. Even with the acknowledgement of slavery, we are still slow to understand how it has been infused and embedded. We are doused, we are steeped in the residual of why it's so easy for us to cuss each other out, exclude each other, harshly judge one another for any of the ailments and uh, I don't know, whatever comes along with just being a people. Like, and I don't even know how to explain this. Like, I am grabbing um, with being able to just state this properly. But when energy is not transmuted or reconciled, yes, it piles up. And then we have now been convinced to go see the physicians of the very people who, yeah, like all of it is weird. It is so weird. It is so weird. It is so weird. But I think with that Queen of Wands having a Page of Swords and an Ace of Swords, that we are in the midst of paradigm shifting. And we have to also understand that those that have been privileged speak in privilege. And those that have been disenfranchised speak in terms of disenfranchisement. And it's not just one or two people. It's everybody. It's everybody folks are connected to. being able to view our existence in terms of energy, that's a relatively new thing. We were speaking in terms of energy prior to, not I'm talking about as a collective, or the increasing collective voice, the voice of the collective. And so now we are dealing with a situation where we have a handful of people that really listened to their intuitive instructions and tapped in and started studying, and removed themselves from all of the crowd, and they really went into their hermit mode, and they started becoming the energetic alchemists. And so things started emerging and morphing, and they started seeing some things. And of course, we have this notion that says the Knight of Wands. That almost makes me feel like the Knight of Wands makes me feel like the Queen's Bishop. Okay, so it's like the Queen of Wands now has her double-edged sword, and her bishop, yeah. So she's the Queen of Wands has her two swords. She has swords in each hand. One is bigger than the other one, but she got two swords in each hand. She's full of passion because she's the Queen of Wands. And I'm going to say her wand is in her back pocket. Now she got her bishop. They all understand that it's not just about happiness. You got to transmute the hindrances too. That's the whole key. And the moon is guiding the whole thing. We love the solar experience. We love the solar experience. Failing to realize that there's also a lunar experience that we are neglecting. It's almost like the way that I'm seeing this is like some of your happiness is understanding your darkness, understanding what that transmutable process is like, and take it out of this religious context of good and evil. The strength, the strength God. Oh, that was beautiful. Oh, that was awesome. Mm, mm, that was awesome. Some folks are being tapped on the shoulder to be able to fluently speak to the cards with the cards. Some folks are being intuitively invited to see for themselves, so that there can be more witnesses to say, "You mean to tell me I let this narrative scare me from my native tool of communicating with the non-physical world? You mean to tell me that the leading narrative says voodoo is this, that, and the third? That's because they had no business fucking with it. And so now that this narrative has had a chance to travel across the land, we think that that's talking about us too." Why? Because we always trying to include ourselves in this American dream. They not talking to you. They ain't never been talking to you. You the product. They ain't talking to you. The emperor. Man, that monarch ain't talking to you. That's the reason why that monarch can do whatever it wants to do, have been for generations, do whatever the fuck it want to do. It ain't considering you. And the more and more you whine about it, the more and more it silently smiles, knowing it's doing its job correctly. You the fucking product. Okay, so I'm going to end it here because I think I done said enough. I think I've said enough. I've been amazed at the messages that has been coming through, and yeah, um, I've been checking the components of my birth chart. So I've been watching um, the stars, the moons, even the sun, and the planetary rotations and the transits and the conjunctions and the sextiles, just to get a firm understanding of my particular moods. We haven't even gotten to the fundamental basis to understand that when the moon is doing something, we are doing something. To understand that the human being is a conduit of energy and that the source of those energies come in a pantheon. It's not just one singletary source. And I know I'm about to start something now. I already know. I already know that, little shit gonna be popping up here and there and everywhere. And it is what it is. We still got to go through this learning curve of paradigm shifting because it's been a long while since folks of a melanated statue had this massive level of shifting, and they knew that. And I'm going to direct you back again. Go find out what corona really means. Go on. Go on. Go check it out. And then ask your intuitive essence, what does that mean for you? Go ahead, go do it. And that ain't no spooky shit. That ain't no evil shit. I even invite you to travel down that rabbit hole and find out who told you that. Find out why do you figure that to be the truth. In a world where you already know that the narratives were chopped and screwed. We know this already. Why are we not intuitively challenging this shit? Like, where did I get that from? Why do I feel that to be truth? What does that mean for me? And stop figuring that because you believe it, you got to force it on everybody else. Everybody came here to have a different type of experience. Your truth is not their truth, and vice versa. So we fighting to be on one accord with regards to mentality when I really think that the one accord comes from the emotionality. We can have the unique, eclectic. That's what the whole point of views are for. But how we feel about one another, the way we feel is the universal thing. Get it out of the logic, get it into the intuitive and the emotional. That's where you will see the universal soul circuits. That's where you'll see it. That's where you'll see it. And that's why I often say, I don't need like minded people. I need like hearted people. I'm intrigued by your diversity of thoughts because your point of view is totally different from my point of view. We can check in with point of views, and it don't even have to do with agreeing to disagree. It's just different. To agree to disagree means somebody is bowing down, backing down from being right. What if don't nobody come with the notion that anybody got to be right or wrong? It's like the buffet. Does the fried chicken tell the salad that it's no? They up there. They up there, and how it resonates is how it gets consumed, and that's true for religious, economic, domestic, education. There is no such thing as one size fits all. That's how all of the animal species on this planet can show up in such the Wheel of Fortune and the Six of Cups. We are so slow and so rebellious about accepting the true diversity of this realm. I'd be in awe at just the uniqueness in body type and how everybody shows up differently. Even the three human beings that I birthed, their bodies aren't shaped nothing like mine or their dad's. It's amazing how individuals still come out of the womb with such uniqueness. Even though we do, everybody got their eyes, their ears, their nose, their mouth, their hands, their arms, their feet, their legs. They have the standard But then there's these customized nuances with each and every individual on this planet. And yet we've been groomed and conditioned to believe that that is somehow a threat or something that needs to be killed or something that needs to be the esteem taken away, something that needs to be destroyed because it's different. What if we just transpose that? What would happen? What would happen if we begin to seek the diversity in this multiplex, in this energetic multiplex called the third dimension? What if it was already promised? The dimension. This is the dimension of diversification. And the thing that keeps you disaligned is the notion that everybody comes the same. That cookie cutter mentality is what kills us. And I don't mean kill us physically. Death is transformation. It's transcend up out of this flesh. What if we honestly understood that our relations with people extend beyond this realm as long as it gets imprinted inside of the corridor between the head and the heart? What if true love actually transcends this uh, physical embodiment? True love. Not that shit where motherfuckers is playing with your heart and there's no respect involved. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about that true shit. That build a bear type of shit. That build a nation type of shit. Because let me say this. Let me say this real quick. Hold on. Let's see what's at the bottom. Oh, it's the Hierophant. And I had already said just yesterday, we are embarking upon a redefinition of the Hierophant. So let's just read what the Hierophant is just so we can stay on the same page, shall we? Everybody always showing up cloak and dagger. So the Hierophant is the number 5 inside of the major arcana. The Hierophant is the embodiment of ritual, tradition, and conformity. He can be interpreted as the need for acceptance from others and to fit in with society. The Hierophant suggests adherence to rules and principles, which could indicate being part of a group of people, whether taking the role of mentor or regular group member. The established system of rules is comforting. And I always say that because in the beginning, when I first started reading tarot, I didn't like the Hierophant just because I was rebelling against all of this fake ass constitutional conformity. And see, here's my thing: I would not be, what's the word I'm looking for? I wouldn't be intuitively opposed to the conventions of this society if it was not completely rigged against me and my kinfolk for generations. It even makes me think about all of the organizations, all of the 501c3s. And remember, those are still aspects of this society's engine. It is permission for them to do business. Got to remember that, okay? So even if we're talking about charity organizations or civil rights organizations or human rights organizations, they are still part of the thing that oppresses. And I know that's probably kind of strong to say, but it's the truth. It's the truth. So when you go and you donate to that, you're still making the whole engine stronger. And I say this because if you think about all of the organizations that's been in operation since the mid 70s, there are enough of them, if they were actually doing what the mission said, there would be some turnover. There would be some turnaround. Change would be apparent. Because I wonder, out of all of the civil rights leaders and the manifestos and all of the great courageous feats that have taken place I'm gonna say today, but from now to back then, there is enough for us as uh, a cultural denomination to have significantly made some shifts inside of the society. No, it is quietly cloaked and daggered. And they make sure that they make examples out of the spooks that sat beside the door. They make sure. They make sure that there are opportunities that will be life generative. They make sure they keep them away. You learn about it after the deadline. I'm always called a conspiracy theorist. And my response to that is because there's so many fucking conspiracies. So, with that said, I am going to say that those that are on the ground that are doing the solo missions, they studying, they finding out the cracks in the kinks in the armor of this thing called the American Dream. They are connecting the dots. They are quietly going down these rabbit holes, and they are using their intuition as anchors. And then when they resurface and get to sharing it, then they become the target, and quietly they will be finding out that there are these little things that discredit them. There be little things that seeds that have been planted that will have other people think unjust of them. This has been going on for a very long time. I ain't telling you nothing new. But if they can stop it, if they can intercept it, if they can divide it, they can conquer it. It's the well weaved tapestry that's hard to unravel. But if you got a piece over there, you got a piece over there, and the little patches that are already stitched together is falling apart at the seams. So yeah, and like I said, I didn't really have anything in particular. So I threw out the rundown and just got up here and hit record. Um, we'll see if it gets posted, and yeah, and see what else is going on. Um, I think the hunt for happiness is the distraction. And I don't mean that to say that happiness is not due. That's not what I mean. But I think the distraction comes when we get to believing that going after the bag so that you can continue to buy shit and maintain stuff that you don't really need but you want. We continue to figure that being the best dress is actually part of the destiny versus that which we've being conditioned to value. We've been conditioned to spend money with them. The value has been put, and the crazy part about it is they don't even wear them expensive ass Jordans. Maybe their offspring that might be swept up in the hip hop genre inside of that influence, then maybe so. But the motherfuckers that are responsible for manufacturing and they don't even wear that shit. They don't wear that shit. Them brands is for you because they could no longer brand your skin. And I know that might have been a bit far fetched, but that's just the way I feel right now. Shit is ridiculous. Like, and while we still cloaking and daggering each other, doing a job for them. The more and more we laugh at somebody else's pain or ailment or shortcoming as if everybody was born equal. They were not. Mind, body, and soul, they were not. Well, I ain't gonna say soul. Mind and body. Let me say that. So, yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me. I wish you well.